Anthony Davis, but he was the second best player on the championship team. When Luka wins the championship, by the way, he just led them to the finals last year. Has been all NBA 5 times. He's going to be the best player on the championship team. So to me, it seems like they didn't want to pay Luka.
I'm going to go with an easy one for me.
Yeah.
And this, hopefully this is non-controversial, but he was my teammate, and he's also one of the best players in the world. And to coach in the NBA, you need one of the best players in the world. It's Luka.
Just the excitement of being able to add a caliber player like that, a generational talent like that to our franchise, is something that's given me energy.
The NBA has witnessed plenty of shocking trades, but none quite like this. When Luka Doncic was traded from the Dallas Mavericks to the Los Angeles Lakers, it didn't just stun the basketball world, it shattered expectations. One of the most skilled, beloved, and decorated young stars in the game was shipped off, leaving fans and analysts scratching their heads. Weeks have passed, but the shock hasn't faded. The initial debate was why Dallas made such a drastic decision. Was it internal conflict, a disagreement over Luka's role? Or was there something more at play, something hidden beneath the surface? Theories flooded in. Was this move about basketball, or was it about power, business, and control? As time passed, the focus shifted. Now, it's not just about why Luka was traded, but how he was treated. The Mavericks didn't just part ways with a franchise player. They seemingly tried to justify it, with reports about Luka's conditioning, leadership, and attitude making headlines. It felt like the organization was trying to convince the world that trading away a generational talent was the right choice. This didn't sit well with many. Former players, NBA legends, and even Luka's ex-teammates defended him, calling out the Mavericks for their handling of the situation. The conversation is no longer about Luka being a problem. It's about how Dallas mishandled a superstar and tried to rewrite the narrative in the process. Today, we're diving into the biggest reactions from players, analysts, and insiders standing up for Luka. From fiery callouts to blunt...
Mr. DeMont, take a step back, take a seat. You know nothing about hard work or what it takes to be great. You married into money. Sit with this trade that you made. Hopefully Anthony Davis gets healthy, and I wish Dallas Mavericks the best moving forward. But shut the up, man. We all know how good Luka is. We don't give a what you have to say. Just sit back and...
That's exactly the kind of thing that infuriates former players like Barnes. NBA vets hate when front offices disrespect the legends of the game. Luka didn't deserve to be traded, and even worse, he didn't deserve to have his reputation dragged through the mud. If Dallas thought they could just spin their way out of criticism, Barnes made sure that wouldn't happen. When a trade this shocking goes down, there are typically two possible reasons: basketball or something deeper. For Paul Pierce, this wasn't just a basketball move, it was about ego. On a recent podcast, a Celtics legend called out the Mavericks for turning their backs on their entire future.
Man, it's just like, it's some egos that got involved in all of this. Like, you traded the whole future, the whole face, the whole city was on his back, and you just said, we don't need you. Like, seriously? This is one of the most unprecedented things I've ever seen. Like, where do they go if they don't make the playoffs? Because they made this trade thinking like, right.
Paul Pierce is asking the real questions. The Mavericks bet their entire franchise on this trade working out, with no backup plan, no rebuilding process, just an all-in move that now comes with zero guarantees. But why? That's where Pierce's theory gets interesting. He believes this wasn't just about basketball, it was about control. Someone in the Mavericks front office, or possibly ownership, wanted to prove a point. Was Luka gaining too much influence? Was there tension behind the scenes? The truth is, you don't trade a player like Luka Doncic unless there's something more going on beneath the surface. If the Mavericks miss the playoffs, this trade goes from questionable to catastrophic. And speaking of catastrophic decisions, Jalen Rose had some strong words about the financial side of all this. Rose has seen plenty of bad trades, but when he looked at this one, he saw something even worse: a franchise unwilling to commit to greatness. In a televised discussion, Rose didn't hold back.
Me, it seems like they didn't want to pay Luka. So for me, if you don't want to pay Luka, then just sell the team. That's how I feel about it. Because if you ain't going to pay somebody to accomplish what he's accomplished already, I don't know where the money going to come from somebody else.
Jalen Rose didn't just criticize the trade, he questioned the entire direction of the Mavericks as a franchise. Let's be honest, if you're not willing to pay for a once-in-a-generation player like Luka Doncic, what's the plan? This isn't some borderline all-star or project player with development concerns. This is Luka, one of the most dominant young players we've seen in decades. And yet, instead of building around him, the Mavericks let him walk. Why? To save money? To avoid a supermax contract? That's not just a bad move, it's a franchise failure. Now, Dallas isn't just trying to replace Luka's production, they're scrambling to justify to fans why they wouldn't pay to keep one of the league's most valuable players. As Rose pointed out, if you're not willing to invest in a player like Luka, maybe you shouldn't own a team at all. When you've been around the NBA as long as Avery Johnson, you've seen your fair share of trades, some brilliant, some questionable, and some that make absolutely no sense. For Johnson, Luka's trade falls squarely in the last category. The former NBA champion coach took to social media to express his disbelief, struggling to understand how the Mavericks could justify letting go of a player like Luka. No way, no way, no way. Luka is 25 years old, and sure, there are areas he can improve, like defense and communication with referees. But this type of talent doesn't come around often in a lifetime. That last part, that's the key. Luka isn't just an all-star, he's a once-in-a-generation talent, the kind of player you build a franchise around for the next 15 years, not trade away at 25. Yes, Luka has his flaws, but if those are the reasons. When you move on from a player of Luka's caliber, maybe the problem isn't Luka, maybe it's you. What if Luka elevates his game even further in Los Angeles? What if he reaches MVP level? What if the Mavericks just handed away their best shot at a championship because they were too focused on his weaknesses instead of embracing his greatness? Avery Johnson, who knows what it takes to win at the highest level, believes Dallas made one of the biggest mistakes in NBA history. But while Johnson focused on the basketball side of things, another former Mavericks insider took aim at something deeper, the people making the decisions. Bob Voulgaris, a former Mavs executive, sports bettor, and analytics guru, spent years working behind the scenes, seeing firsthand how the franchise operated. And when the criticism of Luka started ramping up after the trade, he wasn't having it. In a scathing podcast episode, Voulgaris called out everyone trying to discredit Luka's legacy. The people critiquing him have no business doing so. They've accomplished nothing. Who are they to talk about what it takes to win? Sure, they're in charge of the team, but let's be real. What have they done? They inherited a good roster, a generational superstar. A little humility wouldn't hurt. This wasn't just a defense of Luka. It was a direct attack on the Mavericks front office.
Anthony Davis, but he was the second best player on the championship team. When Luka wins the championship, by the way, he just led them to the finals last year. Has been all NBA 5 times. He's going to be the best player on the championship team. So to me, it seems like they didn't want to pay Luka.
I'm going to go with an easy one for me.
Yeah.
And this, hopefully this is non-controversial, but he was my teammate. And he's also one of the best players in the world. And to coach in the NBA, you need one of the best players in the world. It's Luka.
You know, just the excitement of being able to add a caliber player like that, a generational talent like that to our franchise, is something that's given me